Yes, so sorry, people at the back, can you please move forward a bit? Yeah, thank you very much. All right, yeah. Okay, thank you all for joining. And I welcome you all to this talk about demystifying Web3 and also um, talking about blockchain interoperability. All right, next slide, please. Okay, yeah. So, welcome you all once again to Oscar Fest, and where today we'll be talking about demystifying Web3, like I mentioned earlier, and also blockchain interoperability. So, my name is Idris Olubisi. I'm a software engineer and a technical writer. I currently work as a developer advocate at Axela, and we'll be taking a deep dive in this session. It's kind of categorized into three, where we'll be taking a deep dive into um, that's how everything started within the internet and also in the Web3 space. And then we move forward to the pre-interoperability era, where we have different blockchain working in silos. And then we proceed to the future implications of blockchain interoperability. Okay, yeah, so yeah, these are the category I just mentioned now, how everything started pre-interoperability era, and also the blockchain interoperability use cases and the future of blockchain interoperability. So how everything started, this is the first section of my talk. How everything started, we have a journey through time, which I regard to as the web evolution. So in the first phase, we have, sorry, excuse me, next, I didn't hear you. Next, yes, which I regard to as web evolution, like I mentioned earlier. Next, next. Okay, yeah, so we have the era of Web 1, which is regarded to as read only, where what is happening as at that time is just to read content online, and all of the people that have access to the internet, as at that point, they are only consumers. Next. And then we move on gradually to read and write era, where we don't just read content online, we also write them. So we have a couple of applications right now that we use, our social media applications. We have ability to comment, reply. All of those interactions did not exist during the Web 1 era, so which is a good thing, right? Then next, please. So we gradually now move on. Instead of talking about just read and write, we then move on to having discussion about reading content from the internet, writing content to the internet, and now owning them. And the Web3 phase here is the third iteration of internet, which is powered by the blockchain. Next. So now, in Web3 itself, how did it all started? We have different phases until we get up to the point of blockchain, the interoperability, and some of the use cases of the reasons why we need interoperability in the first place. Next. So in the beginning, we had Bitcoin, we have Maker protocol, we have Ethereum, and we have OX blockchain and Uniswap. So these are all refers to as the very beginning of the blockchain era, where we have all of this protocol existing and having Ethereum itself, which allows developers to build decentralized applications using smart contracts, writing smart contract code. Then next, please. So now, that's like the beginning. So let's talk about the pre-interoperability era, which is the second section of this talk, right? Next, please. So what are the challenges that exist during this era? Next slide. So we begin to have different platforms spinning up, which literally means that more protocol, we have more decentralized applications, right? So we have the likes of Avalanche, we have Celo, we have Agorand, and all of this protocol exists to solve one problem or the other within the blockchain space, but they all work independently, right? So this is like a major challenge within the pre-interoperability era. Next slide, please. So the two major highlights here is lack of communication between those chains, and also Oracle problem, which means that we have individual protocols and they don't have the ability to interact with other protocols because all of this information exists majorly on those protocols, right? Next slide, please. So now, we've talked about how everything started and then moving on to the pre-interoperability era. The third section here is what exactly is the blockchain interoperability in the first place and what are some of the use cases that is attached. Next slide. Next slide. So blockchain interoperability in a simple term just refers to as communication, enabling different blockchains to communicate with each other. Not just communicating, they also exchange assets, they exchange data, which is referred to as the cross-chain messaging protocols. So we have cross-chain messaging protocols that allow this kind of interaction to happen within the blockchain space. Next slide. So why is it important? Next slide. So I'll be talking about a couple of points here why blockchain interoperability is important. The first one is it allows seamless transfer of data and assets and value across different blockchains. Next slide. And then it opens up wide range of opportunities because when you have ability to build your decentralized application and with a single click you can do transfer of assets between one chain to the other, it kind of brings and open up new opportunities for app builders to think about great app to build, innovative app, which literally turns out to mean great opportunities, right? Next slide. So it also helps improve the security and reliability of individual blockchain. Next slide. And finally here, it facilitates blockchain collaboration and integration generally, because now you see the likes of, which I'll be talking in a couple of slides, where we have cross-chain protocols powering interaction between chains. So either you want to send message from Binance to Avalanche or from Avalanche to Polygon, or probably registering a token on Ethereum and you want to extend those functionality to other blockchains. So you can easily just leverage the protocols I'll be mentioning, which they provide SDK for those that are interested in making their token or their application interchange. So next slide. Yeah, a very good example here is Junkyard NFT, right? Does anyone here have bought an NFT before or own an NFT up to this point? Anyone? All right. Is it still expensive? Is it still relevant? Is it still useful? All right. Okay, that's fine. So Junkyard NFT, basically what they do is that they allow you to bring those worthless NFT that is no longer useful, right, to dump it in Ethereum smart contracts. And the whole game, they call it a kind of game, is built on Polygon. So what they do literally is that after dumping your Ethereum, your NFT on the Ethereum smart contract, you pay some sort of gas fees, some sort of fees, so that you'll be able to fish valuable NFT from Polygon. So this interaction on Ethereum and Polygon is facilitated by a cross-chain protocol called Axela. So it enables interaction between these two chains, and also not just interaction, but also a way of transferring assets from one protocol, which in their case is Ethereum, to Polygon, right? Next slide. Yes, so now I mentioned cross-chain communication protocols, right? Where we basically facilitating interaction, but let's talk about it a bit so that you understand what I mean when I mention the cross-chain protocol itself. Next slide. So in simple terms, it's just to allow protocols to interact with different blockchain, like with different blockchain networks, basically, right? And this interaction also enables them to communicate with each other and transferring assets and data from one protocol to the other. So example here is what Axela is doing, where it offers a decentralized and a scalable infrastructure for seamless transfer of assets and data between blockchain. Another good example here is Polkadot. Anyone familiar with Polkadot here? Yeah, interesting. They are also building an infrastructure that allow multi-chain to connect within the network. And another one here is what Cosmos is also doing, where we have an ecosystem of interconnected blockchain, which also facilitates interaction between those networks, right? Next slide. So, like I said earlier, which these cross-chain communication protocols generally, they utilize mechanisms like relay chains, they utilize inter-blockchain communication, which is known as IBC, and also some of cryptography hashing functions, right, to facilitate those secure and verifiable communication between those chains. So all of these things I mentioned is not as if they built an app somewhere and an app that you can't even verify or trust the process. So in this case, I will also be giving an example. Next slide. Yeah, an example here is the Axela stack itself, where we have 3 layers, and we have the application layer, which we have different decentralized application, different network interaction, and then we have, okay, this is not showing very, okay, yeah, we have the Axela API itself, where the interaction happens between the application layer and to the layer gateway. So individual gateway here provided, as you can see, we have the Ethereum, we have the Avalanche gateway, we have the Cosmos gateway and Polkadot gateway, all of them interacting and sitting on the Axela network, which is a complete proof of stake decentralized blockchain network, right? So next slide. So now let's talk about the use case. You've learned about the example and the Axela tech stack itself, how it kind of facilitates those interaction between chains. Next slide. Next. So popular example here is building decentralized finance application to transfer assets, swap assets from one protocol to the other. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, NFT building platform. So you could build your NFT platform, and now you are not just building on one protocol. You are building and also extending that functionality to other protocols with just one click. So when I mean just one click, I mean leveraging Axela SDK. You could literally, there are a couple of endpoints or functions exposed to you as the app developers, and with those endpoints, you could just create your front-end interface, and within one click, after integrating those endpoints, users will be able to transfer assets from one protocol, any protocol basically. As it stands right now, Axela integrated over 39 plus chains, both EVM compatible ecosystem and also the Cosmos ecosystem. Next slide. Also, it's very useful in the gaming sector, where you see gaming experience become more immersive with interoperability, as users can bring their in-game assets across different games, right? Next slide. Next slide, please. Yes, and not, it doesn't stop there. I talked about DeFi, NFT, and gaming. It's also very, very useful when it comes to identity management solution, which provide users with a single digital identity across multiple chains. Imagine you have one wallet and you are interacting with an application that is integrated or that have the ability to interact cross-chain. So it means that if you connect that wallet to just that application, if the application have the set functionality, you'll be able to move assets around, which just that's your single identity with that wallet that you already signed in. Next slide, please. Yes, and also the healthcare sector, where interoperability between chains and healthcare system can improve patients' data management across chain. So you don't have issue of saying, oh, we are having issues from retrieving data from maybe the Ethereum ecosystem or the Ethereum blockchain or the EVM compatible blockchains. You have this access and functionality to move things around from one protocol to the other. Next slide, please. And finally here we have DEX, right? Recently, Uniswap, there have been a couple of research happening within the space to validate how, to validate and verify protocols in charge of cross-chain communication. And Axela happens to be one of the verified protocols that helps transfer data from one protocol to another securely. As you all know, Uniswap is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, decentralized exchanges out there, right? So, next slide, please. Now, this is the final session here, where we talk about the future of interoperability. Next slide. Next slide, please. So, to just break things down, first, it helps enhance collaboration. One, two, it helps build an open, interoperably blockchain ecosystem, and also it serves as innovation catalyst because now you are not thinking of building on one protocol. You are thinking about, you spend more time thinking about the problem you are solving, and then leverage cross-chain protocol to extend things that you would normally do in a single protocol to other protocols. So protocols here could be anything, basically Avalanche, Cosmos, Ethereum, Polkadot, or whatever protocol that you wish to extend your dApp functionality to. Next slide. So now, how do you get in? Next slide. As a developer, you could then get involved. There's popular Interop Summit. I think the last one happened February during its Denver. This is one of a good examples of conferences that you could attend as a developer if you want to really learn more about cross-chain communication protocols and how to move data around from one protocol to the other. And not just that, we also have a couple of resources. For example, in Acela, we have the developer docs, where you could learn more about cross-chain interoperability, and also the Acela blog, and some other resources that is useful for you to get started as a developer. Next slide. Now, as a designer, you can also get involved when it comes to cross-chain communication protocol, right? How do you get involved? Before now, we see designers building or designing applications, decentralized applications in this case, for having the mindset of, okay, this application will be deployed on probably Ethereum. But now, how designer could get involved is thinking interchain, thinking where, what if this system is no longer compatible, or this system does not really serve the purpose? We want to extend the functionality to other protocols. How do you do it? So as a designer, it's still also relevant to utilize your skills, but now you think interchain. Those are some of the things that could easily make you get up to speed to get involved with the discussion about cross-chain communication protocols. Next slide, please. And as a user, of course, a user does not care about technology behind all of these things. They just want to move assets around. They want to swap. They want to send cross-chain messages. They want to just do things in the web. They don't even care about the technology itself. So as a user, before now, we've seen Squid. Anyone have any idea about Squid, a platform called Squid? Have you ever used Squid before? Yeah. So they allow you to swap assets, right, from one protocol to the other. So now we have so many chains incorporated because under the hood they utilize or leverage the Acela protocol itself to facilitate those swapping from one protocol to the other. So as a user, you can just visit Squid and you'll be able to interact and swap your assets without even taking time or having like special time for you to think through the whole tech or trying to understand tech behind it. But you could just literally just leverage from the front end UI and you'll be able to swap your assets from one protocol to the other. Next slide. Yes, in summary, next slide, please. In summary, we talked about a couple of things, but to summarize the whole thing, the web evolved literally from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, and then it's also clear that interoperability is the key. That's just the future, to be honest, because we can't keep working in silos. We can't just have a couple of protocols there existing and working in silos without interacting with each other. So, which leads me to the next point, says connectivity, which means you make more and you save time, right? So, and it also costs less to build, since we have like cross-chain protocols that already help facilitate those interactions. So what you just need to do is to leverage the SDK provided by those protocols, and you'll be able to ship things faster. And yes, you should get involved. All right, so next slide, please. Yeah, so to wrap it up, right, there's this saying I want to leave everyone with, right, which says instead of moving assets to compute, it's better to move compute to where assets are, which literally means if you have your application deployed, all of this, your logic deployed on a specific blockchain protocol, and you are willing to extend that functionality to other protocols. Leveraging any cross-chain protocol could help you achieve that with a button click. So a button click, logically, it's a button click. But behind the scene, if you want to integrate it or develop such application as a smart contract developer, there are a lot of things you need to go through. But thanks to Axela, we have very simple to use SDK that could allow you to move things around from one blockchain to the other. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you very much. You can find me on at Solanisoft anywhere, and I'll be happy to help. Next slide, please. Yeah, so if you have any question, I'm happy to answer this question. And please, I also have like a couple of merch swags to give out, right? After the session. But one thing I would say is you could just help scan this QR code. It takes less than 2 minutes, 1 minute to fill in what is there, which is like a survey to get feedback on your understanding about this talk and also how this talk could benefit you, which would help me myself improve and also as a feedback for us at Axela to even make developer life easier. Please do me a favor and scan this QR code. It takes less than a minute to fill. So while we are scanning, does anyone have any question or feedback or regards or any contribution basically? Anyone? All right. How can I hear?
Sure, sure.
How can I hear? How can I hear what you say? All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Me too. Lovely presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So like one of two main problems that stop like mainstream adoption of like blockchain technologies around like assets and like regular users using blockchain technologies
Yeah.
is like security and like complications like ease of use.
Yes.
Right? I'm just like wondering like what now that like Axela is solving or can solve like a problem that a lot of users have, especially like first people who have like their first few transactions, yeah, where like you're sending money, for example, you make a mistake with like the chain,
Yeah.
and like the money gets stuck somewhere, and you're not able to retrieve your money or something. I'm curious, like, what applications are you seeing, right, that like are pushing mainstream adoption to make it very easy for users to use like blockchain technologies, right? Like
Yeah.
either like interchain technologies or even just make it user very easy for users to like transact or move assets across blockchains easily without having to worry about like complications or mistakes
Yeah.
that can be costly.
Yes, so I mentioned earlier that Axela is built on a proof of stake mechanisms, and which means security is our top priority. That's what we do first. And also, it's a completely decentralized system. In fact, you can visit axelascan.io. You see all interaction on the chain and also the validators, right? Right now we have about 70 validators, which means the protocol itself is completely decentralized. So when it comes to security, it's top notch. You should be rest assured. Then to the second question about user experience. So user experience has been like a big issue within the blockchain space, which is why I mentioned earlier that the approach Axela is using to solve this is to transfer assets with a single button click, right? So, which means that we already factored in some of these things, some of these problems when it comes to user experience. So we are providing a valuable SDK for you to just, so as a app developer, you don't really want to do so many things or ask for so many requests from users before they could move assets from one protocol to another. So
So
Those SDKs, you can just leverage it and be able to transfer assets from one protocol to the other.
So I understand that,
Yeah.
right? I'm saying like, oh, like you're solving a very interesting problem,
Yes.
right? Where users don't have to worry about like, oh, where is this asset? What chain is it from, or
Yes.
something.
Yes.
I'm curious about like the solutions that are being built on top of Axela,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Or users can gradually, we can begin to like get more and more mainstream,
Okay.
that users don't have to care or worry about, oh goodness, this thing is like on some chain, my money is stuck somewhere. Like, what solutions are people building that is making interoperability easy, and yeah,
Okay.
hopefully helping user adoption as well.
Okay, good. One example I gave earlier is Squid. If you've ever used Squid before, Squid is a great example of how um, cross-chain interoperability works, right? Cross-chain communications basically, because it's built on Axela. So what does Squid does? What they do basically is to allow you to move assets from one protocol to other. Not just that, but also convert um, existing assets. For example, you have Matic on Polygon, and you want to transfer that assets to Avalanche. So how, you need liquidity, you need the AVAX version of that particular Matic that you're transferring. So that platform is a very good example, and it makes it simplest, very easy, because you have inputs, you just select your token, you get a drop down, you select the network, you get another drop down, which is the destination chain where you want to transfer the asset to. You select the destination chain and you click send. The next thing you see like the processing, and also all of this process can be verified all on chain. And so when I mean verify all on chain, you could just get the addresses and then check the Ascala scan protocol or Ascala scan UI, where you could see it's just like the Explorer for Ethereum. So same thing, you could see everything happening within the chain from one protocol to the other. How would that answer your question? Okay, cool. Any other questions? So in the absence of no question, maybe after the session, I'll be at the back there to share a couple of swags. So thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you guys.